more companies. One of the things that I think that Dave, you alluded to earlier when you were doing your kind of outline presentation was the way that AVB sits on a network alongside all the other data that's needed on that network. And I certainly know from my days of editing a magazine in this industry was that one of the great gripes that people from both the audio and the video sides of the business had was that they couldn't get the bandwidth that they needed on the network in the building, or in the worst cases, and by no means a small number of cases, the correct audio network or the ideal or AV network just wasn't specified for the building because it would have necessitated creating an entirely separate network. I don't know whether anyone wants to sort of pick up on that and the potential that AVB has almost to grow the market for audio and video manufacturers simply by making those sorts of problems a thing of the past.
So I think to address that, I mean, fundamental in AVB in the standards themselves is this concept of automatic reservation of bandwidth. So anyone who's been involved in installing large-scale systems or even mid-scale, small-scale systems, I chuckle to myself whenever I encounter a computer program and it says, talk to your your IT manager. Well, it's my house, it's me, so my wife usually asks me to make it work. Similar thing in an AV deployment, but with AVB standards that automatically manage the allocation of the bandwidth required, so you don't need to log into a switch and set VLAN priorities and set the amount of bandwidth required, whatever. That's automatically happening just by a source requesting a conversation from that talker. And in the event that the system doesn't have the bandwidth to let you know that you wanted to open this up, but it couldn't happen, and here's where in the chain that happened. That's incredibly important. And the other part of that as well is that there is guaranteed bandwidth to make sure that, I laugh every time I say the word, but legacy Ethernet, what we experience today pre-AVB, is allowed to go through, but it won't throttle your AV performance. So, again, there have been proprietary network standards that work well, but they start to suffer when subject to heterogeneous traffic. So that has continued to proliferate the necessity to have an AV network and an IT network. But with AVB, you can have the data that your IT team wants flying on the same data that your audio and video system wants, and frankly, lessen the burden of the IT manager. The IT manager, these are IEEE standards, so when you talk about some proprietary technology, an IT guy's never heard of it, but he's heard of the IEEE, and when you talk about 802.1 standards, which are what his switches are based on, it's a huge benefit and bolsters their confidence and is making them accept this type of technology to run both types of media and IT on the same network.
Thanks, Lee.